You finally did it. After months, maybe years, of watching every purchase, saying no more often, and trying not to touch the account, your savings crosses $20,000. For the first time in a long time, you do not feel broke, and that feeling changes the way you spend. The old car suddenly feels too old. The apartment feels too small. The trip you kept postponing feels reasonable now. The clothes, the phone, the furniture, the little upgrades you used to reject, all start sounding different. Not because you stopped caring about money, because having money made you feel safer. That is where a strange trap can begin. $20,000 can be enough to make you feel financially established while still being nowhere near enough to support a permanently more expensive life. And the danger is not always one reckless purchase. It is using temporary savings to justify permanent upgrades. Imagine someone with $20,000 saved. Their car still works, but they are tired of it. They put $6,000 down on something newer. The payment is manageable. Insurance rises a little. Fuel costs a little more. Maybe the registration does too. Nothing feels disastrous. They still have $14,000 in the bank. That is exactly why the decision feels safe. But look at what changed. Before the purchase, the $20,000 was protecting their future. After the purchase, part of it is gone, and their monthly life cost more. They did not just spend $6,000. They reduced the pile that could protect them and increased the amount their next paycheck has to carry. That is a very different transaction. Most people judge an upgrade by one question: can I afford this right now? But stability depends on another question: what does this decision make my life cost from now on? That difference is easy to miss because savings creates visible confidence. You can see $20,000. You cannot easily see the next 4 years of higher insurance, larger payments, more expensive habits, bigger rent, upgraded travel, and the expectation that your life should now stay at this level. The bank balance is visible. The new baseline is not. And once the baseline rises, going backward feels harder than never upgrading in the first place. This is why a person can earn more, save more, and still quietly become more fragile. The Federal Reserve reported that in 2025, only 55% of adults said they had enough set aside to cover 3 months of expenses, and 63% said they could handle a $400 emergency with cash or its equivalent. That matters because a savings number can look impressive without actually representing much time. $20,000 means something very different in a life that costs $3,000 a month than it does in a life that costs $7,000 a month. At $3,000 a month, that money can represent breathing room. At $7,000 a month, the same balance can disappear frighteningly fast. The number did not change, the life around it did. That is the first thing people miss. Savings is not just an amount. It is a relationship between the money you have and the life that money has to protect. If your lifestyle gets more expensive every time your savings grows, the finish line keeps moving. You save $10,000 and finally breathe. Then your expenses rise. You save $20,000 and finally feel established. Then your expenses rise again. You make more money and tell yourself you can loosen up. Then your monthly obligations rise with the income. From the outside, that can look like progress. Better car, better apartment, better clothes, better trips. But financial progress is not measured by how many upgrades your income can carry. It is measured by how much stronger your position becomes after the upgrade. Because some purchases improve your life and still weaken your finances. Both things can be true. A newer apartment may genuinely be safer, closer to work, or better for your family. A newer car may genuinely be more reliable. A vacation may be worth taking. The problem is not enjoying money. The problem is letting one savings milestone convince you that every category of your life can graduate at the same time. That is how $20,000 turns into permission, a few thousand toward the car, a deposit, and moving cost for the nicer apartment. New furniture because the old furniture does not fit the new place. A better wardrobe because the environment changed. A trip because you have been responsible for so long. Each decision can make sense by itself. Together, they can rebuild the exact pressure the savings was supposed to remove. And this gets even more important when the upgrade is financed. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau warns people not to judge an auto loan only by the monthly payment. In one of its examples, a $20,000 loan at 4.75% cost about $597 a month over 3 years, with roughly $1,498 in total interest. Stretch the same loan to 6 years, and the payment falls to about $320, but total interest rises to roughly $3,024. The lower payment feels easier. The obligation lasts twice as long. That is how lifestyle expansion hides. It does not always arrive as a giant expense. Sometimes it arrives as a collection of payments that fit. A car payment fits. The higher rent fits. The new phone fits. The gym upgrade fits. The subscriptions fit. The travel payment fits. And because each one fits separately, nobody notices that the future paycheck is being divided into smaller and smaller pieces. The savings account may still show 5 figures, but the monthly margin is disappearing. And margin is what makes savings durable. Without margin, every surprise has only a few places to go: into savings, onto a credit card, into another loan, or into the next paycheck before it even arrives. This is why a person can have $15,000 in the bank and still feel nervous 2 months after upgrading their life. The nervousness is not irrational. Their money may be noticing something their lifestyle has not admitted yet. The cushion got smaller, the monthly burn got larger, and now the same life requires more income just to stay still. Housing and transportation show how powerful that baseline can become. Bureau of Labor Statistics data for 2024 show those 2 categories alone accounted for just over half of average household spending. That means the biggest upgrades are rarely just cosmetic. A more expensive home or vehicle can reshape the entire month. And once a large fixed cost rises, cutting restaurants or canceling a streaming service barely touches the real problem. You can save $20 here and $40 there, but a $500 increase in rent has already decided more of your month than 10 small sacrifices can undo. That is why some people feel confused after their first real savings milestone. They thought the account balance was the proof that they had escaped the pressure. Then they upgraded. A year later, they are earning more, owning nicer things, and somehow watching payday become important again. The hidden loss was not just the money they spent. It was the distance they gave up. Distance from needing the next paycheck. Distance from using debt during an emergency. Distance from staying in a bad job because they cannot afford a gap. Distance from panic when the car breaks, the rent rises, work slows down, or someone in the family needs help. That distance is one of the most valuable things savings buys, and it is almost invisible. Nobody compliments you because you can survive 6 months without income. Nobody sees the payment you do not have. Nobody notices the apartment you could afford but chose not to rent. Nobody is impressed by the car you kept for 2 extra years. Visible upgrades create social proof. Invisible margin creates financial power. those are not always the same thing. This is also why two people earning the same salary can look completely different 5 years later. One person treats every raise and savings milestone as evidence that their lifestyle can expand. The other treats part of every increase as a chance to widen the gap between what they earn and what their life requires. At first, the first person may look further ahead. Their life improves faster on the surface. The second person may look almost unchanged, but underneath, something different is happening. Their emergency fund lasts longer. Their investments begin growing. Their debt becomes easier to eliminate. A job change becomes less dangerous. A bad month becomes annoying instead of catastrophic. An opportunity does not have to wait for the next paycheck. That is the part wealth can hide. The early stages often do not look impressive. They look like unused capacity. Money you could spend but do not have to. Credit you could use but do not need. Income you could convert into lifestyle but choose to convert into options. That is why the sharpest way to think about the $20,000 trap is this. The first serious pile of savings should make your life harder to break before it makes your life more expensive. That does not mean freezing your lifestyle forever. It means upgrading from strength instead of excitement. There are a few ways to tell the difference. First, separate your safety number from your spending number. If $20,000 is the money protecting you from a job loss, medical expense, major repair, or family emergency, stop mentally counting all $20,000 as available. Decide what portion is untouchable safety. Once that money has a job, the amount you can actually spend becomes clearer. You may discover that you do not have $20,000 available for an upgrade. You have $20,000 saved, but perhaps only $3,000 or $4,000 that can leave without weakening the structure. That one distinction can prevent a lot of false confidence. Second, test the new monthly cost before you commit to it. If the nicer apartment will cost $600 more each month, move $600 into savings every month for 3 or 4 months while you're still in the cheaper place. If that feels easy and your other goals still move, you learn something useful. If it immediately squeezes investing, debt payoff, groceries, or your ability to handle normal surprises, the future payment is already showing you what the upgrade will do. You can test a lifestyle before buying it. Third, judge major purchases by what remains afterward, not just the balance, the structure. After the down payment, do you still have real emergency reserves? After the new payment, does money still stay at the end of the month? Can you keep investing? Can you absorb a repair without undoing the whole plan? Can you survive a temporary income drop? A purchase is much safer when the answer is still yes. Fourth, upgrade one layer at a time. A raise does not require a new car, apartment, wardrobe, phone, and travel budget in the same year. One controlled upgrade lets you feel the real cost before the rest of your life expands around it. This matters because lifestyle creep is hardest to notice when several small changes become normal at once. You do not wake up one morning and decide to become financially fragile. You simply stop questioning costs that used to feel optional. And finally, keep building after the milestone. $20,000 should not become the point where saving ends. It should become evidence that saving works. The first meaningful reserve changes your relationship with money because it proves you can create space. Protect that space long enough, and it starts doing more than covering emergencies. It lets you invest without feeling exposed. It lets you take calculated risks. It lets you negotiate differently at work. It lets you replace panic with choices. That is a much bigger upgrade than looking richer for a year. You worked hard to build the money. Do not let the existence of the money become the reason it disappears. Enjoy some of it. improve your life where it genuinely matters. But make sure the version of you with more money is also becoming more resilient, not just more expensive. Because the real milestone is not seeing $20,000 in an account. It is reaching the point where one bad month cannot erase what took you years to build. If this made you look at money differently, subscribe to Fiscal Sense, because this channel breaks down the hidden money patterns that keep hardworking people stuck, and the quiet shifts that help money finally become stability.